The Bitcoin Group, the American original, is filmed. I gotta take that out of the script. The Bitcoin Group, the American original, for over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Davi Barker from ShinyBadges.com, Megan Lords from Bitcoin Not Bombs, Chris Ellis from Feathercoin,
Hello.
Derek J. Freeman from Peace News Now,
Hey, what's up?
Christoph Atlas from Anonymous Bitcoin Book,
Glad to join everyone.
and I'm Thomas Hunt from Mad Bitcoins. Issue 1, Coin Summit. The latest and greatest Bitcoin conference was Coin Summit London, costing around $1,000 a seat, but featuring a free live stream. Everybody who's anybody in Bitcoin and business was there while they discussed the future of our virtual currency. What were your thoughts of the conference? Davi Barker.
We're going to me first. I didn't go to the conference, and I didn't go to the live stream, and I couldn't afford the ticket, and I don't live in London, so I don't have a whole lot of commentary on it, except maybe to say that when a similar conference was in San Francisco, I couldn't go because I was priced out of the market. So, I mean, I guess it's sad to see the ticket price of these things going up, but I also think that what that's going to do is create a market for a lower income, more like convention as opposed to conference style event. So that's my take on it.
Megan Lords.
I thought it was really kind of them to open their event to us proles out here who are struggling to get by, so we can get a little peek of, how they plan on taking over Bitcoin and making it, nice and friendly for, venture capitalists and all of these other rich people who were hit pretty hard by this recession and are struggling pretty bad. So, I think all of these events that are increasing in ticket price are, like Davi said, pricing a lot of people out of these conferences. And I mean, I'm not really interested in attending them. I don't really think that focusing on how we can make money off of Bitcoin or how we need more venture capitalists or whatever is what I'm really interested in at all. And I think that there will be a lot more conferences that will be coming out that will be affordable and accessible to people, because if we want people to take Bitcoin and we want people to get involved in this technology, we have to make it affordable for people who need it the most, really. And I think you're going to see that as a reaction to these overpriced conferences that have a very elitist feel to them. Even the article describing it, the way the conference is selling itself is it's this event for serious players in Bitcoin, as if anyone who's not in this special club is just kind of fucking around. So I think you're going to see other Bitcoiners who don't want to go in this pro-regulation, pro-big business direction, forming their own events and bringing it to the people who need it the most. And I look forward to participating in those.
Chris Ellis.
So yeah, obviously I've said a lot about it already, but so I won't say too much more because you can see the shows that we did, and obviously I covered it very well. My friend Cecile, who had to volunteer, she had to enslave herself in order to be able to get in for 2 days, said earlier on there has been a consistent commentator at the Coin Summit who has had more airtime than even Bitcoin himself, and that's Mr. Chris Ellis. And yeah, it's true, I completely trolled them on their big screen. They had a big screen above where the speakers were, which had the Coin Summit hashtag. Mistake. Very, very big mistake. So yeah, I was kind of, giving them a hard time when they deserved it, but also we should give them credit for opening up the live stream. It was very, very professional, but then again, you'd want it to be for $1,000 a ticket. And I thought that it was a bit like, Tom said this earlier, Bilderberg with a window. You basically got an insight into what they were doing. The thing is, though, what I am worried about is that essentially what these kinds of events do is they give an exit for the banks. So the individuals that have committed fraud over the years now get to duck out of their jobs in the banking sector and then get to set up new identities, new corporate identities under the guise of being Bitcoin and revolutionary. And one of my friends, who shall remain nameless, was at one of the events that I co-organized, but I refused to go to last night, the Coin Scrum event. I didn't want to go. I objected to it. Paul was like, do you want to come and talk? And I was like, no, I kind of don't. Like, even though it doesn't cost me anything. And so my friend told me that apparently you have to respect their wallets. You've got to pay respect to their wallets. Like, and we were asked, like, you know, why aren't you, like, you know, you've really got to suck up to them. And they didn't like the fact, like, my friend was going off and he was making a video with his friends, you know, just the way we do. And they were like, why aren't you schmoozing? Why aren't you sucking up to the money? And it's like, how the fuck do you respect somebody's wallet? What even kind of bullshit phrase is that? And these people are so weak that they need to create this kind of veil of pompous and, like, you know, like self-importance. And you really don't need them. You shouldn't be giving them that power over you. You shouldn't be begging VCs for money. Some of those pitches that people were doing, like those startups were doing, well, for a start, like some of them, there are already open source equivalents of what they're doing. Like that BitPacer can easily be disintermediated with CoinPunk. The XP terminal, well, we've already disintermediated that at Feathercoin because we've got an open source point of sale. So I really don't see the point, and I'm just a little bit worried that you're just replacing one monster with another.
You gotta kiss the ring, Chris. You gotta kiss the ring.
Fuck that.
Derek J.
I'm in disagreement a little bit with Chris here. I agree, kudos to the event for putting on a live stream and allowing everyone to be able to see it. There's a lot of value in that. But even the opportunities given to his friend to volunteer, he called it enslavement, working for them. I know it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but someone's got to talk to these VC people who do have all the money, and it should be people who started off the event, like Roger Ver, talking to them about real-world examples of how he's already using Bitcoin to pay for his plane ticket and his hotel room, and he helps them see. I mean, they're going to put their money somewhere, aren't they? So why shouldn't people like Roger be talking to these VC people and treating them right? They are a certain group of people who exist in the world. Maybe we're not the right type of people to be talking to them. It sounds like we don't really belong at these conferences. But we're not high-power money people. At least I'll speak for myself. You know, we're average Joes, and for the most part, Bitcoin has been average Joes, but it's going to grow if it's going to be successful, and we're going to need to talk to these people. Thank goodness there's someone putting on an event for them and helping them see the value of Bitcoin.
We're certainly not high-value money people, but we do own our own Bitcoin ATM. Christoph Atlas.
Yeah, this type of event is not particularly interesting to me, but of course we see the place of it. This is the space where the last generation of people who dominated finance are trying to figure out this new era of finance. And I'm already in the new era. I've already been completely sold on the idea, and I'm in it mainly for philosophical reasons and not to make a quick buck. So it's just two different audiences that, you know, and there are two different components that with the world with the way that it is right now, it has to be we both have to exist in this kind of Bitcoin space together. I just would disagree with anyone, and maybe the article did a little bit of this that we were referencing, that would suggest that somehow these people are more important to the Bitcoin space. That somehow, you know, that they're necessary to bring Bitcoin to the rest of the world. That we desperately need their funds, we need their projects, we need their pocketbooks, and I'm not necessarily certain that's the case. I'm more interested in the kind of bottom-up growth rather than the top-down growth. I'm sure that the top-down growth can still be useful in promoting my particular goals, but it's not where my goals begin or end.
Exit question. Which conference are you looking forward to in the future? The Chicago conference, Cryptolina, the virtual Bitcoin conference, or the recently announced Bitcoin in Florida? Will Pangman, just joining us now. Which conference are you looking forward to?
I'm looking most forward to the one in Chicago. I've had a hand in organizing some of the events that take place there. Don't know if you guys mentioned it already, but I'll do so now. There's a free Bitcoin beginners workshop that's open to the public on both mornings of that event in Chicago at the same venue. And you just need to click our Eventbrite link, which I can attach to the About section of this video. And please sign up. If you're in the Midwest and you're thinking of coming to the Chicago event, there's reason to do so for free. I don't know if you guys also mentioned, but the price was reduced from, I think it was around $250 for the weekend. It was reduced down to $100 for the weekend. And if you possess a .edu email address, meaning you're a professor or a faculty member or a student at a university, please use that email to sign up for the event and you'll get an additional 50% off. So there are some events working on making these things more affordable, more accessible to the public. And certainly with a free event that's totally geared towards Bitcoin beginners, and will give people a chance to learn how to properly secure a wallet on a very basic level and learn about Bitcoin and actually get $10 worth of free Bitcoin from Coinbase. So they've been sponsoring this event, and along with the College Cryptocurrency Network. So there are some of these things going on out there. That's what I'm psyched about.
That's very cool and an excellent contrast to the Coin Summit event. $100 and a free event in the mornings. Davi Barker.
I'm actually most excited about an event coming up in October in Atlanta, Georgia called Walker Stalker Con, where I'll be presenting my zombie novel, Survivor Max, and speaking on the ethics panel. And although it is not technically a Bitcoin event, I will be there repping the Bitcoin Not Bombs outreach material, and so I'm sure there will be some people who are introduced to Bitcoin for the first time or whatever. But I guess in closing, what I'll say is if you guys are, and this goes not just for the people on the panel, but for anyone else who's ever been to these events as a speaker, if you're ever invited to these high-ticket events as a speaker, don't do it for free. They clearly have money. They clearly have moneyed interests. If they're interested in you as a speaker, make them pay for it.
So what kind of ethics will you be discussing, Davi? Zombie ethics?
Yeah, zombie ethics. The Walker Stalker Con is in Chicago, in Atlanta. I think there's another one in Florida. It's sort of a new thing. It's a zombie convention. And the audience of the zombie genre is particularly concerned with ethics. That's one of the things that draws people to zombies as a genre, is the question of ethics in a lifeboat scenario, in a life or death, run for your life, save your neighbor, or leave them behind sort of scenario. And as somebody who's personally interested in ethics, especially interested in the non-aggression principle or universally preferable behavior or things like that, I'm going to be going representing that perspective.
Very cool. Megan Lords.
So I've been speaking with Jason King, and it looks like we will be organizing a conference in Disney in October. I don't have a whole lot of details yet. I can't give a whole lot out yet. But what we're trying to do is basically make the cost for the entire event, as far as you attending, getting a hotel room, you know, under the just ticket price of a lot of these larger conferences. So we're trying to keep the price extremely low, keep it very open to people, and also expose it to a different audience at Disney. I think it'll be interesting. The first 2 days will kind of be more conference type stuff, and then you know, of course, we're trying to make this a really fun event too, and maybe have speakers that are lesser known. You know, we're not trying to, I don't know that we're necessarily trying to pack the schedule out with like a ton of people. But yeah, I'll be sharing more details as that kind of develops, and I think it's really going to be a sharp contrast to some of these other conferences we've seen.
Chris J. Muted. Still muted.
Oh, there we go. I have to mute myself twice now. So we had a suggestion from Mark Warren at Bittylicious, who runs one of the very easy-to-use Bitcoin exchanges here in the UK. He's like, fancy organising a free coin slummit event. So we're going to do it like in a disused warehouse in East London is what he's suggesting. And then Max Kaiser kind of got on board straight away, and he's like, yeah, you know, we can join it with this one we're going to be doing on the 21st of August with Banks of the Future. Before that, though, we do actually have one coming up that's already booked out quite well. We're London Meetup Group that I co-organise here with Ian and also Paul Gordon. I'd like to give a shout out to Paul. We have one of the largest meetup groups in the world. It has like 1,700 members. Like that's just on this website, but I think we've got a few hundred more unofficially, people who just kind of wander in without signing up. And this is the event that we've got coming up on the 21st on Monday, and it's going to be featuring Max Kaiser, Stacey Herbert, and Simon Dixon from Banks of the Future. So that's what I'm going to be attending next.
Derek J.
In Chicago definitely sounds very cool, but I won't be able to make it, unfortunately. So the one I'm looking forward to most is Cryptolina in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's happening August 15th and 16th, and the time just works out for me, and it's in a lovely part of the country for that time of year, and I've never been. So I'm thrilled that there are so many Bitcoin conferences that I can just sort of just choose my travel vacation plans based on like, oh, what sort of Bitcoin events are happening in that area. Very cool. So I will be there. I don't know what its special claim to fame is. They say it's for entrepreneurship. Cool enough for me.
Very cool. Christoph, Atlas.
Yeah, I don't really have anything lined up at the moment, but I'll have to work on that pretty soon. If anyone's interested in having me speak at their conference or anything, be very happy to do that. I was quite pleased with the way that the my presentation went in the DC conference, and of course I think you have at least a partial recording of that up on the World Crypto Network, and possibly another recording coming out soon. So if people are interested in that, they can check that out.
Very cool. Moving on to issue 2. Issue 2. Bitcoin domain name prices defy drop in virtual currency's value. The value of Bitcoin may be going down, but entrepreneurs are still snapping up Bitcoin-related domain names at an alarming rate. Some 3,500 Bitcoin-related domain names have been purchased since May 12th, which we all know is the birth date of comedian George Carlin. What are your thoughts on the continued run on Bitcoin-related domains? Megan Lords.
Well, I think it shows that people are paying attention and that they see value in this technology, and that's really exciting to me. Despite all of this bad news that we were seeing for a while, saying, oh, Bitcoin's dead, or, you know, there's all these problems and things like that, I think it shows that people are really paying attention and they're willing to put a lot of money into these domain names because they think that there's a lot of potential. So I think it's very good news.
Chris J.
So yeah, Bitcoin as SEO, Bitcoin as a brand. This is something that they mentioned. Garrett Klalman at CoinDesk did the State of the Union at Coin Summit, and he basically said that, you know, if you've got the Bitcoin keyword on your website, you see a massive increase in hits. And I've spoken to a few journalists as well who've told me the same. They're under pressure to write crypto-related articles, but just because having the keyword in the article increases traffic to your website, which means that you can sell more advertising. So yeah, I'm not surprised this is happening. I'm sure there were a few people who last year bought up a few Bitcoin names, Bitcoin domain names, and are probably cashing out about now.
Derek J.
I think this is a little bit silly initially. I'm like, oh, come on, really? You're going to buy domain names and like people are going to be looking up like, oh, Bitcoin domains, whatever. But this happened already with all sorts of fads, America Online and like PeopleNet and all these names. I guess it bodes well. It says that entrepreneurs who are thinking, I'm going to make money on these domain names, I mean, they've been doing this for decades. They know what they're doing, and so they see pent-up demand that's going to be coming for people to be learning about Bitcoin, to be going to Bitcoin-related websites. And so what I thought was interesting also about this article is that it says that the prices defy drop in virtual currency's value. They totally miss the point that it's not it's regardless of the price of Bitcoin. It's the technology that Bitcoin birthed into the world that's going to be important over the next decade. So that's just my thoughts on that.
Christoph, Atlas.
Yeah, when someone mentioned before about journalists trying to insert Bitcoin into their headlines as kind of keywords, it reminded me of this story that came up during the week about like ISIS, the Islamic fundamentalist military kind of group. I guess to the U.S. government they call them terrorists, but to me it's like, well, they do pretty much what you do, but they're just on the other side. So what exactly does terrorist mean? So like the article was talking about that this reporter for Sky. Sky Mail, Sky Newsletter, whatever the hell it is. He supposedly found this blog out there on the internet. I tweeted the guy and I was like, how did you find this so quickly after it came out on this very esoteric blog that has gotten no attention up until this point? He's like, well, that's just my job. And it's like, okay, so you didn't just make the blog yourself, did you, right? I hope not. But yeah, so the story was about how Bitcoin and Dark Wallet and Dark Coin are all going to help terrorist funding, which I think is pretty amusing. I talked a little bit about the show on my show earlier in the week, and so this is the other side of the coin, right? Which is people have pretty varied expectations for Bitcoin. Some people are very excited about it, so much so that they're willing to pay $1 million for a Bitcoin domain name, even though the price is not necessarily going up consummate with those domain names. And then on the other side, you have these people that are probably creating fake blogs to try and discredit Bitcoin, and Amir Taki and people like that who are actually trying to build up the Bitcoin from the bottom up. And so we're going to just see more and more divergence in this respect. We're going to see some people hugely valuing Bitcoin, huge expectations for Bitcoin, what it's going to do for the world, and the amount of money that will be made off of it. And then we'll see the people that are panicking, that are heavily invested in the old world systems, who are going to try to disparage those expectations, that are going to say, oh yeah, Bitcoin's going down to under $10 by June. I think Professor Bitcoin's his prediction came to be not to pass. So we're just going to see more of that crap, and it's they're going to go down with the ship as it's sinking.
Will Pangman.
Yeah, I have been churning through ideas for the past year and a half that I've been neck deep involved in Bitcoin, and a lot of these ideas are just naming ideas, and so of course with certain domain name server services out there, I've been buying up different domain names, and I have gotten some offers that have come in the past 2 months or so. And none of them are blow you away kind of offers, and none of the domain names that I own are really worth anything. But it's fun, right? And like this is probably what people went through, and now a lot of these domain names are gobbled up by schlubs like me and plenty of other opportunistic folks who are even more schlub-like. But so you've got a stack of domain names you're just sitting on, and you're like, man, am I going to renew these for 10, 12, 15 bucks a year every year? I don't know. Some of them maybe not, some of them maybe so. And hey, this is indicative of the value that people see long-term in Bitcoin. Whatever price people are willing to pay for some of these names, some people come up with a great name for a business, maybe it's involved in the space, and they need that name, and they will pay larger sums than are comfortable for them perhaps to get that name, to get that Twitter ID, to get all of these, managing your online identity is a big part of, I hate this term, but I guess for convention's sake I'll use it, intellectual property, right? So this is something I believe in. IP for me doesn't really exist, but the tenacious management of your identity online, whether it's a brand or your public persona or whatever, is incumbent on the individual or the business in a free market. So get after it and go get your names if you need it, and pay the piper for it too. So it's cool. It's about the future value of Bitcoin, which is highly, some people would say overheated, but I think it's whatever the market will bear, and this is what we're seeing from from this article. So to Christoph's point, I really dislike seeing attacks on some of these people who are colleagues who are just grassroots activists working hard, out of their garages, their basements, their bedrooms, things like that. They're making great products, and the disparaging comments are sickening, they're insulting, they have no place, they're not valid, and let's just be louder than the misinformation campaigns.
You can also buy terrorists with cash, It's often frequently used, drugs, terrorism, all kinds of things with cash. So still muted, I think. There's too many mute buttons.
I said that the CIA has done that more than a few times, so.
You just put it on pallets, from what I'm told. They have large pallets for just holding cash, and you plastic wrap it down, and you buy things by the pallet full. So most of us don't calculate in palletfuls, but it's apparently.
Well, have you heard of how many pallets of dollars have gone missing during the Iraq War? Like, where did those end up? Whose hands did those end up?
And we didn't write down the serial numbers? I wonder. Davi Barker, what about you and domain names?
Well, so far the CIA hasn't lost a pallet of Bitcoin, but no. So I think this is a fad. So first off, the price of Bitcoin and the utility of Bitcoin as a payment system to a business are different things. So the fact that there would be a lot of businesses looking for Bitcoin-related websites or Bitcoin-related keywords has more to do with their perception of liquidity or volume of transactions in the system, not necessarily the price of the currency, right? Because unless they're engaged in speculating, like that's what's interesting to speculators or financial institutions or things like that. But the reason I say that this is a fad is because the idea that companies have to have the word bit in their name or coin in their name is kind of a growing pain of the industry. Like at some point we're going to get to the point where it's just ubiquitous, it's just commonplace, and you don't need to put the word Bitcoin in your URL or in your company name. It just is, nobody other than the 99-cent store and the Dollar Tree, nobody puts the word dollar or cent in their URL. You know what I mean? So sure, it's great, it's common, that means adoption is happening, but once adoption, sort of more universal or ubiquitous adoption occurs, those URLs aren't going to be valuable, with the exception of Bitcoin Not Bombs, which will always be a valuable piece of digital real estate.
Good point on the 99-cent store, Davi. I was actually thinking they should rebrand it, maybe just call it the 99. Spell it all out, 99. Below a 99, just like classy,
No, they just, if they really want a marketing win, they need to change it to the 99% store. And then they just appeal to the Occupy movement. They appeal. They are sitting on a gold mine and they don't even know it.
99% store. Everybody shops there. Exit question. Any Bitcoin domains you've bought recently? Any ones you regret? Megan Lords.
No, I don't have any Bitcoin domain names, but I did purchase a domain name recently called peopledoingawesomethings.com that I will be building a show out of and some other things that I'm kind of working on. And I thought that was a steal. The name just kind of came to me as I was making guacamole the other night. I was like, surely someone has that domain name, but they didn't. But no, I don't have any other Bit-related domain names.
That's the way the domain names are for me, too. It's like buying a book or putting an item on your to-do list. I will make a website for this domain, unless it expires in a year, and then you're like, I didn't make a website for that domain. It must not be.
I got it for 2 years.
Oh,
very cheap.
2 years.
So I'm forcing myself to do it.
It's like I read this book about filmmaking, and it tells you to buy a big roll of film and put it in your refrigerator. And that roll of film will go bad in 2 years. So if you don't make a movie in 2 years, what are you wasting your time for? Why don't you make a movie? You got film. So, Chris Ellis, any domain names sitting around you?
Got bitcoindonor.org, and it was actually going to do it as well. I was going to go into charities and show them how to use Bitcoin, but then when I did a bit of research, I found out that they don't want it, and they would just want me to convert it into cash. I bought this like over a year ago now, and I still want to do it as well. There is like a template website up there that I coded up with a friend of mine, and we were going to have people vote on the charity by sending bitcoins to the address, and the one that raised the most, I'd go in on camera and show it to them. So I think once Bitcoin gets more accepted, maybe that's something we can do here on World Crypto Network and actually get the charities on board first with the concept, and then just sort of run with the marketing after that.
Sounds good. Derek J.
I got Let's Talk Dollar Coin, and I got no, I'm working with BitcoinTalkShow.com. That's the only one that I've got right now, and it's active, so I'm not just sitting on it. You can check it out. We've got new episodes every Wednesday. BitcoinTalkShow.com.
Absolutely. Christoph, any domain names sitting around over there?
The most important one, of course, is darknews.tv, which I'm estimating to be worth approximately $1 million right now. I'm open to offers, bids on that. I've also heard a rumor. I don't know what kind of bastard would have done this, but it appears that coinvalidation.net and various other coin validation related domain names are actually redirects to an article by Justice Ranvier calling out coin validation and encouraging people to boycott U.S.-based businesses. I don't know, what kind of complete miscreant would have done that, but it's really a shame. And I imagine that if coin validation wanted those domains, they'd have to pay quite a fine penny in order to get them back.
How many pallets of Bitcoin do you reckon they'd have to pay to get that?
Oh, it would be.
Let me just speculate. Just speculate.
It would be at least 2.14 stacks.
That's a lot of paper wallets. I mean, even assuming 1 Bitcoin in each paper wallet, that's still quite a lot of Bitcoins.
Will Pengman, any domain names?
Yeah, I'm gonna. Okay, let's put them on the auction block here. I've got CoinUps. I've got CoinCommunity.me. I've got LaunchCoin.com, TheBitcoinSpace.com, and
put your bids in the Q&A. Put your bids in the Q&A right now. We'll put them up for sale. Oh, he disappeared. Did I get rid of him?
Oh no, his internet failed. He's got SpottyInternet.com.
Did anyone remember those? We should do a live auction right now.
.com, and probably we'll be back in a couple minutes. Oh, is he back? We're waiting. Got the next story ready.
Chris, I like your idea. I've already registered as a trademark Satoshi URL, a Square, and you actually owe me royalties now for mentioning it on there.
He's quick. Will, you got any more domain names before your connection kicks out again?
I've got Coño, which sounds a little bit too much like coño, which is slang in most Latin American dialects of Spanish for asshole. So we won't be probably finding many suitors for that. Who knows? And then one more. Oh, Coin Chic, which is a good one if anybody's interested in the Middle East and wants one of those. So.
Operators are standing by. Moving on. Issue 3. Judge shoots down Bitcoin isn't money argument in the Silk Road case. In a sternly worded and hardly impartial letter, Judge Catherine Forrest, perhaps named after that famous Civil War general and KKK founding member Nathan Bedford Forrest, or maybe Forrest Gump, the judge seems to have already made up her mind that Mr. Olbrecht is some kind of godfather running an online mafia. The judge also rejected the argument used successfully by Craigslist in Dart versus Craigslist, that the Silk Road was a common carrier, like the phone company, like Craigslist, and that the actual criminals were the people buying and selling illegal items using Craigslist, using the phone company, using the Silk Road. Is the judge right? Chris Ellis.
Well, I think you're slightly misrepresenting her just a touch there. Yeah, but you are right. He's definitely not going to get a fair trial. I think it's clear that she's already made her sentiment clear. So just to quote something that she actually says, it's not at all like the case against Craigslist. What she's claiming is Ulbricht's alleged conduct is more akin to a builder who designs a house complete with secret entrances and exits, specially designed traps to stash drugs and money. This is not an ordinary dwelling, but a drug dealer's dream house. So her client, so what the prosecution are alleging is not what came up originally in the case that you're citing. And in any case, that wasn't what his lawyer was going for. His lawyer was going for a weird kind of law which has to do with people that own property on which drug taking and drug selling takes place. But she was just dismissing that out of hand.
Derek J.
The judge is right about Bitcoin. It is money, and it's a shame that she seems to already have made up her mind about Ross's guilt or innocence, but let's just always remember that when you're in court, the judge can make up whatever rules he or she wants, and there are no rules.
Christoph Atlas.
So I keep seeing these speeches and proclamations from Ross's mother, and I really do feel for Ross and her in the situation. And really the sad truth is that there is no justice system, right? Like this is completely a farce. You know, it does not deliver justice. What it delivers is a way of getting people flooding jails with human bodies. Here's another story that came up during the week. There was a teen couple that exchanged pictures of their nude body, and so the way that the local justice department decided to deal with this was they were going to prosecute the young man for creating and sending child pornography since he was 17, but they had to prove that it was his dick pic, and so they were going to actually drag him to a hospital, inject his penis with drugs to create an erection, and then take pictures of his erection, have police officers do this, and then use special software. Apparently they have like dick analysis software to compare his forced erect penis at the hospital with the captured video that he sent. I actually found their police department put out this statement, and there was this woman that put the statement out, and I forgot what her name was, and I found her on LinkedIn, and she calls herself a crime prevention specialist, which is pretty hilarious. And actually found her personal Twitter account and encouraged people to, let her know how they felt about the case. And I think she ended up deleting it. But so this is sort of what you can expect from justice in the United States. If you have a lot of money, you can buy a lawyer who can make all kinds of stuff happen. I think because of the nature of what Ross has done allegedly, I think all the money in the world wouldn't really help him too much in this situation, because he's really public enemy number one for challenging the government. And what I think Ross has done is I think he's created a blueprint for people to exchange and do business over the internet in a global fashion for all kinds of stuff, not just drugs and guns and whatnot, but much more pedestrian items. And that's going to, if people in government think that they hate Ross Ulbricht right now, 20 years from now, they will really, really hate him, because he's really done a lot to not only get the Bitcoin economy going, but also to light a fire under these dark economies that are going to encompass more and more of the globe. Conservative estimates about the global economy, the underground economy, is that by 2020 it may involve as much as 2/3 of the world's workers, and I think they'll probably have to adjust that estimate upward. So I think that Ross is probably fucked in this court case. He's not going to get a fair trial, as other people have said, and I really feel bad for him, but I certainly will. I wish him the best. Every possible advantage that he can get in this, I hope that it goes his way. Maybe there will be a mistrial, maybe something like the the famous reporter that reported on the DoD a couple of decades ago. He had a mistrial and he got off his case. So, fingers crossed something like that could happen, but I don't have very high expectations for his court case right now.
Will Pangman.
Yeah, it's clear that the odds are stacked against him. He's not really getting a fair treatment thus far, or a fair trial is a low likelihood. I do think the prosecution has a mountain to climb. The state, and the judge manipulating the consciousness of the jury collectively, ultimately, they have a mountain to climb in actually proving that Ross is DPR. I have to say, I'm incredibly impressed with the judge's response to the motions filed by the defense. She really deftly sliced and diced a lot of what the defense levied with that motion. And while I, disagree, and some of the things she said were very spurious, but still very much seemingly solid, as a rebuttal to the piece of the motion that she's rebutting. So, yeah, I was confident in the defense team and the strategy from what I know about the case up until I read her statement, the 50 pages. And that is very effective, what she did, for the way the system works currently, which is very tragic, completely unfair, as the panelists have said. All that being said,
you're talking about the judge here, right, Will? Not the prosecution, right? The judge laid out her case well against this defendant. That's really
correct. That is crucial. Yeah, thank you, Thomas. That is exactly what I'm trying to say here. Is what we're seeing from the judge is alarming as an arbiter in this situation. So
it really seems like the prosecution and the judge are pretty much on the same team.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people argue that too, the flesh and blood defense. So, no, let's go ahead.
Davi, go ahead. I'll finish, but go ahead.
I just said they are on the same team. Is that in dispute? They both work for the state. Their interest is in maintaining the state's position. So they are on the same team.
Yeah, very much so true. And actually, the defense attorney is limited in how far that party can go. In terms of, because of the rules, the confined rules that they work under, which is, again, state-sanctioned. So Davi's correct. Yeah, Christoph's right. The panelists, I'm sure, will all agree on this. But what we can do is we can make more noise, and I think the walls are coming down around prohibition, around drugs, much of which were less severe drugs going through there than, the most harmful drugs out there. Some of which are legal, by the way, like alcohol and opiate painkillers and such. But the bottom line is we need to make more noise. It's incumbent upon us, and we can't sit behind hashtags. So let's do things. Anyone with any legal acumen, willing to kind of put the reputation on the line a little bit, to go and advocate and support and do research. Anyone with a PR background, marketing speciality of any kind, get behind some propaganda that's, exposing the frauds of the drug war itself and discussing the merits of the prosecution's case and, the lack thereof, really. So that's what we can do as far as I see it, unless you have money to contribute to the defense fund. And I really do think Roger Ver's contribution and the contributions of others are going a long way. You cannot underestimate what a good defense can buy you. I know Christoph has a good point about no amount of money could really win in this false system, but there are ways for us as a community and for the defense team behind this defendant to free this man. So let's point our efforts and direct them that way.
Can I just ask a question? I'm reading through the paper that she wrote. She hasn't actually heard evidence yet. So how is she making the statement that Silk Road was, in her words, Silk Road was specifically and intentionally designed for the purpose of facilitating unlawful transactions? Albrecht is alleged to have knowingly, intentionally constructed and operated an expansive black market. I mean, she hasn't actually heard evidence yet. She hasn't heard any testimony. So she's just going off prima facie evidence. She's just going off what the prosecution have alleged. Is that right?
She's going off the indictment, and Thomas can fill in more here, but basically she's doing a PR stunt. That's what she's doing, and a damn good one, unfortunately. She effectively really sliced through the defense motions, which were really, really strong and creative. So I don't think nobody has really played their whole hand, except maybe the judge in this case at this point, because she then can sit behind the bench at this from this point forward, especially when the trial begins. But Thomas can probably add more.
I mean, it's possible they've done discovery. She could have looked at the evidence before it's presented as like part of a case, just the generic evidence, but it's pretty unlikely she'd look at all of the discovery. There's going to be a lot of evidence in this case. But yeah, I mean, I think, Will, everyone's pretty much right here. The whole system's out of order. It seems very unlikely that he'll have a very good trial. But everyone should donate and try to help and do what we can, because this is important to internet freedom to everyone. It seems to me like the Craigslist case. Even unless the website said you have to insert a drug, because I was told you could sell T-shirts and raw milk and books, little pamphlets and things. If you can sell other things on there, it's a common carrier. Like, you can use the phone company to buy anything, but we don't hold the phone company responsible for what people buy using their phones.
I liked her exploration of the metaphor of the crack house and how he built this house specifically with extra trapdoors. I just think that she didn't quite take it far enough. So if you're familiar with the show The Wire, there's this character named Omar his role is like he busts into these drug dealers' places and steals their drugs and their money. And that basically would be the role of the FBI in this situation, right? Because they got the stash and they sold it off.
And the crack house thing is an important legal distinction. There was a case about if you own a house where people are like doing crack and selling crack, are you responsible for people doing crack and selling crack in your crack house? And it goes back and forth. If you're a slumlord, if you're not upkeeping the house, if you rent it to bad people, and basically they said you're not responsible for what goes on in a crack house. So, Davi Barker, any thoughts on this case?
I think Christoph said it earlier, forgive me if I'm wrong, but it was something to the effect of the government has trouble defining terrorism because it perfectly describes everything that they do. My cat agrees. So this is just an example of money is a word, and they control what words mean. And if words don't mean what benefits them in this case, they'll change the meaning of the word money. And if it needs to change in the next case, they'll change the meaning in that case too. When people use trials to make an example out of someone, that can't be a fair trial, right? Like, that has to be a kangaroo court. Otherwise, you're not making a good example, right? So, of course, all of these legal defenses are important, and of course, like, they should fight tooth and nail to win the case. And of course, we should all do everything in our power to not only support the trial and the case and the defense, but also the public opinion associated with it and the lasting impact that it has. But no, I don't think anybody expects a fair trial out of this case. What we're expecting is a sort of a seminal or a precedent-setting verdict against somebody who is being made an example of as the first of their kind in the Bitcoin space. And so the state is using this to create a climate of fear. I guess the good thing that came out of this article is I think that is the sympathetic photo that you and I have been looking for, Tom. I know we've been going through all these photos of Ross Ulbricht looking for one that looks like the good marketing photo, that looks like the good propaganda photo. And I think that one might be it. I mean, that looks like a pretty upstanding, sympathetic character, right? Like, he's in a polo shirt, he's clean shaven, he's young, this is the I mean, I hate to play off of stereotypes.
This is the photo. Very much.
Doesn't that come from his family? Hasn't his family sent that one in?
Yeah.
So I'm going to capture that photo and I'm going to run it through my propaganda generating machine. And, all I can say is that I hope the best for them. And I think it's a perfectly good defense. But, they don't care what words mean.
Megan Lords,
I got to speak with Lynn at PorkFest, and she's a really wonderful lady, and it's a very distressing situation because there is no justice in the justice system. Everyone's gone over that. Everyone agrees that Ross is not going to get a fair trial, and the judge is right. I mean, Bitcoin is money. We use it as money every day, but it also shows that it doesn't matter what is right, and it doesn't matter what words mean. They can change it to fit their needs. So I've donated to the defense fund. I think everyone should donate to his defense fund, but I question the efficacy of working within a broken system. I'm not saying you shouldn't donate. You should absolutely donate, but I would definitely like to say I'd like to see creative approaches to dealing with people who have been made political prisoners by the state. One political prisoner, if you go back to the late 60s, was Assata Shakur of the Black Liberation Army. What happened with her is she was falsely accused of killing a police officer. And it was a kangaroo court. It was ridiculous. And there were other things. I mean, she had previous trials, too, that they tried to get her for various things. And she ended up becoming convicted by an all-white jury and sentenced to prison. And what happened is the BLA ended up breaking her out of prison. She currently resides in Cuba, and there's still $1 million bounty for this woman. It's disputable that she actually killed this police officer. Some people will say she did. Some people, there's a dispute there. There's also a dispute over who Ross Ulbricht really is, if he's actually Dread Pirate Roberts or whatever. So am I suggesting that we break Dread Pirate Roberts out of jail? I don't have the means to do that. I wouldn't even know where to start with something like that, but I would like to see an outside the system approach to freeing people who are stuck in this injustice system, because this sets dangerous precedents. This sets everyone up for being thrown in jail more easily by the state. And it also said, I mean, the site Silk Road also set a different precedent, like Christoph said, where I think 20 years from now you're going to see a whole lot of different dark markets emerging that people are going to have to resort to using because the regulated markets are going to be unusable in a lot of ways with all of the regulations that are on people. So those are my thoughts on it. I don't think there's enough money in the world that will get him out of jail at this point, and I hate to be a downer on that, and I really, really hope for the best. His mother is wonderful, and I think he's a hero, and I hate to see someone not given a fair trial and thrown in a jail cell to rot forever. That's really depressing to think about. I hope for the best in this, but I can't really see him getting a fair trial, and I want to see alternatives.
And remember, at the end of the day, the Silk Road actually reduced violence on the drug trade by allowing large producers of cannabis to sell to mid-level dealers in deals where there's a large amount of supply and there's a large amount of money. They actually took violence out of the drug trade. So they embarrassed the government with that. Remember, this is the same government that the CIA sold crack cocaine to the inner city directly. And I'd imagine if we compared those numbers, there was more crack cocaine sold by the CIA than sold by the Silk Road. So they should look at that. And remember, the Silk Road 2, Black Market Reloaded, whatever it's called now, still exists, is still out there, is still multiplying. So what have they really done? Have they stopped Napster? Is the MP3 dead? They better keep trying, because it seems like it keeps coming back to life to me.
Megan
really
brought up
that he's being... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Derek.
Well, Megan brought up alternative methods and saying that money is ineffective at this point for a defense fund, and I 110% agree. As good as your lawyer is going to be, I predict Ross will be railroaded. One alternative that could be effective that hasn't been brought up yet is the concept of jury nullification. Some people think it's a reach, but it's been successful in the past few years in a couple high-profile cases. And people know that the drug war is a fraud that hurts good people. Everybody knows that at this point because we all have someone who's been affected in our own lives. But they don't know what to do about it, like Megan was just saying, like, I just want some alternative. Well, one thing that we can all do to increase the odds of Ross's success is to educate people in the New York area, because I think that's where the trial is going to be happening, everyone about the concept of jury nullification, the idea that juries can free a person convicted of a crime if they feel the law is unjust. So if you're concerned about Ross Ulbricht and people like him, you need to Google jury nullification and take jury duty every chance you get.
Anyone else on that?
I agree with Derek on jury nullification big time, but I'm not willing to say that it's not a possibility for a sophisticated defense with enough funding to exonerate this man, get this man acquitted. So it's possible. We've seen again the justice system. What makes it so corrupt is what also makes it full of loopholes too. And these are exploitable for the advantage of alleged criminals in their defense trials. So this is not out of the realm of possibilities, and that's, I think, the way we need to talk about this case. Not that it's almost hopeless because of the Leviathan, which again is a reality, but there's plenty. There are plenty of strategies. There are plenty of aces up the sleeves of the defense, and surely the prosecution too, and Thomas can, alliterate on this, but basically this is the game. It's not revealing your 4 and 5 and 6 moves ahead in the future while still being effective in the present, and trying to seek conclusion or resolution in the present too.
We'll see. You never want the judge to write such a big essay against your case when you're just starting off. That's a real tough way to start. So.
Not the judge who decides the guilt or innocence of the convicted or of the person on trial. It's the jury.
I know, and the judge decides what the jury sees and how they interpret it. Like, there's a lot of important impartiality that used to be there, and that
yeah, but they don't decide what the people see on the outside. So that's why talking to people in the New York area about jury nullification before the trial happens is the most important use of our time, I think.
Yeah, I agree with Derek. The jury's yet to be selected. If more and more people realize that this is an option for them if they're selected as a juror for any trial, any case, then this can be something that creeps in when they start to feel that twinge of encroachment or coercion on the part of judges that they often do to juries, and Thomas knows about this too. There's lots of pressure judges apply to juries in closed-door sessions or even in grand juries, or even, this happens, and that's what this essay serves as, is a major precursor of manipulation, public relation campaign for sure for the press, but also manipulation for would-be or eventual jurors. So that Derek's right. Let's get the word out on jury nullification as much as we can, find out exactly what jurisdiction the trial is taking place in, and pepper the place with pro-nullification propaganda.
Just a few months ago, federal prosecutors in D.C. were begging judges to make the people take down advertisements about jury nullification because too many jury members were asking about it. So we know that it's effective when people see these ads out in the subway, in the real world. When people know about this concept, they're going to go into the jury box talking about it, regardless of whether the judge lets them see it or not.
And if you mention it as a juror, you won't be allowed to be a juror. So it's also very important that you lie.
Oh, I wish that sentence had an end on it.
It's very important that you lie.
This is the first time that I have seen a judge pontificating on the validity of a defense's case before the jury was selected, which makes me think that this could constitute some sort of jury tampering, couldn't it? I mean, like, she's in the media talking about.
I don't think so. I think she was. This was in regards to their motion for dismissal, and I think it's pretty typical for a judge to release some type of statement in response to the motion. It's just that most of the time people don't care to publicize this report.
All right, moving on.
I just want to say one other quick thing, sorry, which is it's really a shame that they're putting all this effort into making an example out of Ross, because the people that are running the current generation of dark marketplaces and the ones that will run in them in the future, they do not give a flying fuck about the outcome of this case. The only thing that they will learn from this is they will learn, okay, well, I shouldn't be living in the United States if I'm going to be running the Silk Road 2.0, and I need to make sure that I have my operational security, taken care of and all that kind of stuff. They'll be looking at this case to when the state has to present their evidence. They'll be looking for the details of how they nailed Ross so that they don't make those same mistakes. They won't be looking at, oh shit, like Ross got hit for this. Well, I'm not going to start my own Silk Road 2.0. That's absolutely not going to be at the outcome of this case, regardless of how the judge decides.
That's exactly what happened with the Liberty Dollar case. When Bernard von Nothaus was arrested for minting a silver medallion, everybody looked at the government's case against him, and they said, well, if we're going to keep making silver medallions, well, then we're just going to make it this other way. And they took what was essentially a market monopoly. There were not a lot of competing silver currencies other than the Liberty Dollar, and they dispersed it, and suddenly there were like 12 or 20 or 50 different silver currencies that people all responded to the Liberty Dollar case with new innovations and adaptations and mutations that the state couldn't target.
All right, everyone talked? All right, moving on. Did you know if you like Bitcoin and want to talk about it all the time, you can make your own show about Bitcoin? Join the World Crypto Network today. Make a weekly show. No editing necessary if you do it live. Webcam and mic suggestions at worldcryptonetwork.com. Issue 4. Brock Pierce announces dollar-backed cryptocurrency, Realcoin. Brock Pierce, star of the Mighty Ducks, member of the Bitcoin Foundation, has just announced his own altcoin. Well, it's not an altcoin, really. It's apparently on top of Mastercoin, and it's dollar-backed. For every token in the system, there'll be a matching dollar in the vaults, just like gold certificates, just like Federal Reserve notes. It's called Realcoin. Derek J., your thoughts?
Nothing. I'm not interested in Realcoin. I mean, it's kind of cool. I said this in a broadcast we had earlier on the World Crypto Network that it's going to be helpful to people who aren't quite ready to try something totally new. But I think it'll be short-lived, if at all, because as soon as they figure out how to use a cryptocurrency at all, they're going to be like, well, why wouldn't I just use Bitcoin? I guess it's for those who want little risk. Or what they perceive as little risk. What?
Little risk, little reward.
Well, also, the dollar's been in steady decline for 100 years, and, I mean, that's pretty easy to see from any reading of the charts. But if that's what people want, then they can stick with Realcoin. I'm not interested.
Christoph, Atlas.
So this is actually, it's not the first project that has tried to peg a cryptocurrency to the dollar. There's been a number of other attempts at this goal, and I think it's a fine goal. Some people want to have the capacity to be able to trade their bitcoins into dollars temporarily for trading strategy reasons and so forth, and so it's kind of, that might be a benefit to them. Now, they made this statement, though, which is like, well, they're going to take the benefits of cryptocurrencies and apply it to the dollar. And I'm just the idea that there's no risk to losing money by pegging yourself to a dollar is a stupid idea. There's going to be a currency crisis in the next 10 years for sure. And they're introducing all this counterparty risk into the situation, so that they say that they're going to put it into very safe investments, that they're going to be fully audible and so forth. But that's all old world bullshit. Like, if it's not on the blockchain, it's not really auditable, right? It's not. The point of Bitcoin is that we trust in cryptography, not in people, not in what they're writing down on paper, not what they promise, even if they raise their right hand and put their left hand on a Bible. And this is essentially what Realcoin is trying to do, is they're saying, okay, well, you can trust in crypto, but also you're going to have to trust in what we have to say about our dollar-backed assets. And to me, that seems like such a bizarre thing to do with cryptocurrencies. But perhaps I'm missing the big picture. Maybe there's some really clever use of this that I'm not aware of.
Will Hangman.
Yeah, I guess there's really only one thing, maybe two, that I don't like about this project. One is the name. Definitely think the name is poor, but the other thing is that they decide to use the dollar as a backing instead of any number of other things that they could have chosen that could be interesting. I think trying to build these bridge services for the legacy systems and the folks who are dependent on that to easily transition more so into a cryptographic economy is good. All of these things are good. They're teaching us lots of lessons. I think nothing but ultimately positive things will come out of this project. I don't think the project will succeed, however, because I am privy to some other innovations out there yet to be announced that will make reducing risk without leaving the Bitcoin economy per se much more easy than this coin says it will, according to the website documentation and the article and whatever. So, and again, this is within the crypto economy too. These are exciting things. They'll be announced probably within, I have nothing to do with them, I just know about them, and they'll be announced within a week or two. And that's really cool stuff. So keep an eye out for some of these innovations. You'll probably know what I'm talking about when one of the larger companies in the space mentions something about this. A company you haven't heard much of in a while. So just go thinking about that. But anyway, Brock Pierce is all about mainstreaming Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And for that, he deserves support, applause even, especially if his projects turn out well. And this won't be one of them, in my opinion, in my early estimation. But there are several other ventures that he backs, and a couple other projects he's directly involved with that will certainly serve to advance adoption. And that's what we all want. We need to see ubiquity and mainstream mass, critical mass adoption numbers in order to be to give more people the assurance that they can dabble in this new economy, but also to make it impervious to some of these attacks that continue to come its way. Like the last issue we were talking about. If you don't think the government or the state, the state of New York or whoever is going to use the Ross Ulbricht case to really paper a bad name over Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as a whole, and use that to bolster, bad-mouthing it and blacklisting it, or eventually, hopefully, I think, that they want to do, then you're mistaken. That's what they're trying to do. So, yeah, I like mainstreaming attempts at different innovations. Don't think this one will be very successful, but yeah, good on you, Brock Pierce. Keep going with more and more projects. The more bandwidth and money you have to throw at this industry, the better for all of us, in my opinion.
Davi Barker.
So yeah, real coin. I think that the idea of a cryptocurrency or a digital currency that is actually backed by something in the physical world has some utility. And if you're going to try and develop a model that does that reliably, and you want to troubleshoot it, and you want to really gauge, can people trust that the physical thing you say that your currency is backed by exists and you're not defrauding them, I think it is a good idea to begin with a model that is backed by something worthless like the dollar. I'm not interested in this at all. But the one thing that could come from this that I would find interesting is if in currency exchanges the real coin began to trade at a higher value than the dollar. Because that would prove that the cryptocurrency aspect of it actually improved on the legacy system that it's backed by and provided value and utility that the dollar it's backed by doesn't have. And that would be I would think that would cause a kind of cognitive question in anybody's mind who said, well, this is valuable because it's backed by the dollar, but why is it worth $1.50? Right? I think that would be interesting economically, and I think that would happen if it was allowed to freely exchange and if it had some of the functionality that Bitcoin has, but I'm still not buying any.
Megan Lords.
So I don't think real coin goes far enough. I think we need a cryptocurrency that's backed by something that's really tangible that we can see, and by an industry that's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. We need war coin. We need a coin backed by the military industrial complex. Something that's going to be around for a while that you can really have faith in, that's going to last, you know. But so yeah, that was kind of, you know, I wrote a satirical article on Bitcoin Not Bombs about Warcoin. I think real coin, while well-intentioned, is completely missing the point. The whole point of using alternative of a lot of these cryptocurrencies is it's an alternative currency. It's something that is, you know, not backed by the same things the dollar is backed by, which, you know, is the military-industrial complex. And I mean, it's rapidly decreasing in value over the last 100 years, and all these other problems. I think they're really missing the point. And in a way, I mean, and I don't know if other panelists kind of get this, will have the kind of same view of this, but in a way, it kind of seems like it's trying to steal some of Bitcoin's thunder. Like, this will be a coin that people can use who are too afraid to get into Bitcoin because they hear some of the bad press about it, and they're like, oh, well, you know, here's this coin that's backed by dollars, so it's got to, you know, have some kind of value to it. If, you know, maybe they don't understand how value works, but yeah, it's totally missing the point. It's something that isn't really necessary. We already have a bunch of cryptocurrencies out here that are really great, and, you know, that are innovating in a lot of different ways, and I don't really see this as a step forward. It's very much a step backwards. And it also concerned me that in the article they were, I think there was a brief mention of working, you know, with banks, basically working with the same system that we always have, the same institutions that have enslaved a lot of people, basically, and that are the main funders for some of the worst things going on in the world. Like, why would you want to partner with these legacy banking systems and these people who, you know, who crashed the economy, basically? I mean, it seems completely unnecessary, and just, yeah, real coin. I can't get behind something like that. It's completely antithetical to so many of the reasons I got interested in Bitcoin.
Chris Ellis.
So I just want to highlight a joke that was made on Twitter earlier that I thought was really cool. Real coin can be proof of failure. Cryptographic proof of failure. I like that idea. I said about it already, it basically answers a marketing message, but it doesn't solve a real problem. I also think there's a potential conflict of interest with Brock Pierce being on the Bitcoin Foundation and then also operating his own altcoin, and that should have been had more attention paid to it. But if I'm being cynical, I would say that this was a deliberate attempt by the Bitcoin Foundation to try and give an element of credibility to the traditional financial system by saying, oh, look, it works for dollars too, and you can still integrate it into your system. And maybe Bitcoin's just like this, you know, that was just the project that we got started with early on, but we can use something you want if you like, if you prefer.
Very good. And moving
Haven't the banks
on.
been talking about this for quite a while, that they're going to just take all of the cool technology of Bitcoin and integrate it into
We'll take out all the best bits and we'll just leave all that shit. All the stuff with the Silk Road, that was just the beta version. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. We'll clean it all up.
And make sure everyone gets their money transmitter licenses.
Yeah. That's what that Coin Summit event was all about. It was all about, you know, getting your feet under the table of the new pyramid.
Funny you say that, Megan, because Realcoin doesn't have its money transmitter license yet, and it would be interesting if they were denied.
Right? That is interesting. They want it, but yeah, it'll be interesting. The whole Bitcoin money thing. So
We'll find out. Let's see. Questions and answers. These are really a lot more like statements. We have a question about a Bitcoin poll. Like a census, trying to find out how many people are aware of Bitcoin. I think that they had a recent one. The numbers were pretty good. Aware of it. They don't really. What it is though. So And it's supposed to be impartial, but the laws are what they are, and the judge is probably making her own conclusions. So we'll just have to see how the trial turns out. Hopefully, maybe it could be a mistrial if the judge goes too far, but I'm not sure that she has yet, really.
Well, there's no
I should jump in
incentive for judges to be impartial now. I mean, they all work for the same team. You know, their interests are the same interests of the state. So there's no reason. There's really not a whole lot of incentive other than, you know, things like morality and being a decent human being that make them impartial.
A lot of places have elected judges as well, right? So I mean, that's not the case here, but some of them.
Doesn't matter. To the questioner and anyone else who's curious, I urge you to go and look up the rule book for the courthouse in your town and tell me if you don't find the very first rule to be that the judge can waive all the rules at any time. I guarantee it will be the case.
That's the best rule to have. Let's see. Vention MGT Now says, indeed, if I ever refuse or try to get out of jury duty, that's the last bit of authority that a citizen has. And in instances where a minor sends a nude selfie to a friend and gets prosecuted for child porn, if I'm on that jury, I'd nullify. So that's good. Everyone needs to consider jury nullification as one of your options. If you disagree with the law or you think that the person hasn't really done anything, you can throw out the entire case with jury nullification. And I think Tim's got a few domain names for sale. If anyone's interested in cannabits.com or everbit.com. Sounds like gum, really. Everbit. Very chewy. And moving on to predictions or story of the week. Are you ready, Davi Barker, with a prediction or a story of the week?
No, I'm not. I should have been thinking about this earlier. Prediction.
Certainly, Davi learned some new skills this week as a cameraman at the Bitcoin Beauty Art Show.
Yeah, that's true. That's a story worth telling. So as some of you may know, Bitcoin Not Bombs, among its other many functions, it is the world's first officiating committee, and we are currently reviewing the claim that Bitcoin Beauties held the world's first Bitcoin art gallery. Now, there have been a number of showings of art at Bitcoin conferences, but this is the first that was explicitly an art gallery, and all of the artists there were accepting Bitcoin for their art, and much of their art was around Bitcoin as a theme. So this is the first that we've come across, but of course it takes a long time for our committee to deliberate to determine whether or not the claim is in fact valid. So we'll probably have a ruling in the next week or so.
I know there was some other Bitcoin art shows in San Francisco, but perhaps this is the first one done at a meetup mixed with an art gallery.
Maybe.
Megan Lords.
Okay, so I guess I have a bit of a prediction. Well, I will be starting my own show. I know I've been saying that for a while, but I've gotten more focused with it, and I will be having a show on the World Crypto Network called Crypto Convos, and it'll be interview style like I normally do with people, maybe some news items scattered in there, and then I'll also be working on a separate kind of podcasting project too. I need to get a little more focused on. So yeah, I'll be throwing myself into a couple new things here. So keep an eye out for that stuff.
Chris Ellis.
Okay, so sticking with my mining theme, because I've been a real hawk and I'm turning into a bit of a geek with this hashing algorithm, you can now see that our next predicted difficulty will be 3.59%. That is the lowest it's been for over a year. You have to go back all the way to May 2013, where we had an 8% rise. And I predict actually that I like a total hypocrite, having criticized Sexio, I did actually put a little bit of money on there, not very much, just some play money on there to see like what the experience was like, and I can actually confirm it's a complete and utter rip-off. So I put like a Bitcoin. What I did is I put a buy order like 10% lower than where it was when it was up here or somewhere like that, and And I just kind of left it there and forgot about it. And then when I logged back in, obviously the price had dropped, as it tends to do over a difficulty adjustment. And you're literally getting like a few hundred Satoshis for every $100 that you put in or whatever. So the risk reward ratio is ridiculous. You're not making any money by actually buying the mining shares. You're basically trading the volatility. So the game looks like what you've got to do is buy it just after a difficulty adjustment or around the time of a difficulty adjustment, then ride it all the way up. And then it's like a game of chicken where you don't want to be the last one out of the door in the days leading up. So it's kind of, I mean, actually compared to the altcoins, it's probably a more predictable market. And I'm struggling to think why more people aren't doing this, because given that it's such a popular exchange and it's got all this criticism for having such a large chunk of the network, I would have thought people were playing that game a little bit more. But yeah, having tried it myself, I can't see that it's really profitable, but I do predict that the price of the gigahashes will probably stay above the 0.006 price tag that they currently have, and it's been like that since April. It's the longest period of relative stability that they've seen in their price for some time, and that's 0.006 per gigahash as well.
Derek J.
Yes, I have a prediction. After much fanfare, Brock Pierce will be sadly disappointed when he is denied his application for a money transmitter license. But seriously, I've got a story of the week that's really uplifting. It's about another one of these Bitcoin charities, and there are so many of them. I think there's even a Reddit page just for Bitcoin charities for people to list them. But one of the things that inspires me about people who send Bitcoin around the world to make change happen is how they're improving people's lives. One of those places is in Ethiopia, and there's a group called Power Up Ethiopia. And I just love to see humans helping out other humans who, you know, some of whom were born in places where they have more opportunity than others, and then they can help out. So what Power Up Ethiopia is doing is helping give people access to water so that they don't have to, first of all, be drinking water that makes them sick. And second, they don't have to spend all day just getting water. That's a big chore for a modern economy. You can't have a modern economy if you're spending all day just going to get water. So let's make the world a better place by helping people who just need access to water. Power Up Ethiopia is the charity that I'll be donating to this week.
Christoph Atlas.
So I've been looking at the kind of privacy-centric altcoin markets for a while now, and we're definitely starting to see some saturation there. It seems like every day you're reading about some new whiz-bang approach to doing privacy with an altcoin, and a lot of it is kind of like flying by the seat of their pants. Kind of, you know, they haven't put out a white paper. It's just like all you can find out about is like some vague promises, and then like 100 people in some forum that have bought the coin, and they're like, oh yeah, it's going to be the ultimate solution to anonymity. It's completely anonymous. Everyone else that's promised anonymity before, they're complete liars, but this is the one true source is anonymity. And so I'm definitely curious. I think it's going to like have pretty major effect on the altcoin markets over the next year, that people are going to expect that your coin is going to have some kind of privacy feature included in it. And of course, most people don't really understand any of like the math behind it or the computer science behind it, so they have a very limited ability to actually judge the merit of these different things. But there definitely does seem to be a shakeup in the altcoin market. You have Darkcoin. I don't know how Darkcoin's going to fare. It's been having some real trouble with the masternode payouts and all this stuff. Not quite clear exactly how their anonymity is going to improve in the future. I'll be taking a closer look at that project pretty soon. But you also have X11 coin. You have these crypto note currencies that are just behind that, and then like a whole slew of other coins that have just other approaches that are just not quite as well documented yet. So we're not exactly sure how good they are. So I think you'll expect to see, if you play the altcoin market, that you're going to keep hearing about this privacy stuff for a long while to come, at least until Dark Wallet comes out, and then perhaps there will be a more clear victor in this kind of privacy competition.
Will Pangman.
Yeah, I'll give a story of the week. the Chicago conference, the North American Bitcoin Conference is coming to Chicago, and the website's btcchicago.com, so if you want to check out details or buy a ticket there. But the thing I'd really love everybody's help with is to help promote this free event. This is a great opportunity for anyone walking in off the street to not only elbow rub or cross paths with some of the people that they might respect in the industry who happen to attend this conference, but they can come, and if they've been intimidated to learn about Bitcoin, or they just haven't taken the necessary initial steps because they're interested, but it's intimidating, or it's just a bit too much to bear, and they would like some hands-on support. That's what this event will supply, and you'll get 10 free Bitcoins, $10 worth of free Bitcoins as well. So the Eventbrite link to register for the free event is in the show notes, in the About section of the video. I just gave it to Tom, so he should be able to put it there pretty quickly. And please click on that and share the link around. If you have friends or family in the Midwest area, greater Chicagoland area, who you've been trying to convince about Bitcoin, give them this link and encourage them to come next weekend, Saturday and Sunday mornings from 9 to 11 a.m. This event will take place, the same event both days, just so that we can capture more folks who want to come and learn on either of these weekend mornings. And please share it around. It's called the Bitcoin Beginners Workshop, sponsored by Coinbase, who's giving the $10 Bitcoin drop, and the College Cryptocurrency Network, which is a network of student organizations centered around Bitcoin, seeking to bring a Bitcoin presence to their college campuses, and they all work together to spread that around to colleges around the world, and high schools too. They have high schools in Poland, Germany, China, so they'll be changing their name because of the interest from so many high schools around the world. But yeah, the College Cryptocurrency Network regional directors will be there volunteering to help introduce folks with Bitcoin, and I'll be there, and several other of our friends will too. So we really hope to see any of you there who are in the Midwest thinking of making the trip to Chicago for the conference next weekend. And please share the link around so that we can get lots of butts and seats and see how an event like this can work, and maybe we can export it around to these college campuses as they do their regional and campus-wide conferences that they'll be doing this coming school year, and also to some of these other highfalutin conferences that have a big bougie crowd coming to them. They might take an interest in providing a free event to the public too, and this could be a template. So please support and share the opportunity to attend an event like this in Chicago.
And if you'd like to learn more about the College Crypto Network, we have an interview with them on worldcryptonetwork.com from Bitcoin in the Beltway. Check it out on our YouTube channel. Moving on, prediction. Zero tolerance of cryptocurrency left on exchanges week continues. Your Coinbase account is not safe. Your blockchain account too. You haven't set it up right. You should split up your money and put some of it into a secure, offline paper wallet. Own your own keys and keep them safe. When you become your own bank, you have to take on that responsibility. No matter how much or how little you have invested into Bitcoin, it's never too late to learn about how to keep it safe. But we're out of time. Until next time, bye-bye.